Sorry, just finishing eating my toasted cheese sandwich. There's an awful lot of stuff that people feel that they can have an opinion on with regard to President Biden, his age, just nonsense where they take clips out of context to try and get some clout or interest or like, something like that. Have I got bread between my teeth? Mm-hmm. But how come this clip of Mitch McConnell never gets spoken about or shown? Are they trying to hide something? Somebody explain in the comment section. To me, it seems a perfectly reasonable clip to be sharing.
We have to be sharp. If you're in the office of the presidency, we have to be sharp. So they were saying all these different things. It was going all over. Whichever stuck. None of it stuck, fortunately. But one of the reasons it didn't is that I took a test. I said to the doctor, it was Dr. Ronnie Jackson, I said, is there some kind of a test? An acuity test. And he said, there actually is, and he named it, whatever it might be. And it was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult. Like a memory question. It's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good. If you get it in order, you get extra points. If you remember the first question, not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. If you get it in order, you get extra points. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy. And that's not an easy question. In other words, they ask it to you, they give you 5 names and you have to repeat them. And that's okay. If you repeat them out of order, it's okay, but you know, it's not as good.
The DOJ is completely corrupt from top to bottom. It's going to have to be purged. It's going to have to be restructured. They're going to have to get rid of tons of billets over there and lots of personnel on the afternoon of January 20th, 2025. They understand this. And the FBI is the American Gestapo. As an institution, they are not worthy of going forward. That's going to have to totally be restructured. I've been strongly for getting rid of the FBI.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I'll level with you straight. Is that an expression that works globally? Or is it a bit too much British? Basically means straight to the point. The last thing I ever expected as we head towards the debates is Fox News doing any level of, well, that isn't right. Fact-checking. Somebody on Fox News pointing out that somebody else on Fox, as in another Fox News program, got it wrong. The problem I have with this, though, is you never really know, because 2 days later they could totally change their position. However, Howard Kurtz, who does a show called Media Buzz, which is supposedly meant to be looking intrinsically up their own backside of, the media world, where he pointed out how Fox were running with a deep fake piece of BS. One of the problems that's clearly going on now is not only people taking things out of context, but with AI, they put something out, and then you get clowns like Don Trump Jr., who is, I don't know why he's allowed to get away with this, but almost reinforces the BS, and before there's an opportunity to counterattack it with the truth, they've moved on to the next piece of crap. Now, for those amongst the blue tick world, they probably think this is brilliant. In the wider world, it's just garbage.
When President Biden was at the G7 in Italy, where he announced the U.S. and Europe would give Vladimir Zelensky a $50 billion loan to battle Russia, the RNC posted a misleading video titled, "What is Biden Doing?" appearing to indicate the president straying off from the assembled leaders, talking to no one. And that wound up on the cover of the New York Post, meander in chief. You see it circled there. But if you look at it from a slightly broader angle, the president had turned to chat with a skydiver who just landed as part of a show near the world leaders, and to give the man a thumbs up before Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni guided him back to where they were taking a group photo.
During a parachute demonstration, Biden got dazed and confused. How shocking. And started to just, wander off like that as other G7 leaders looked on in agony.
Right-wing media seized on a moment at the G7 summit yesterday involving President Biden.
Susan, I get that Biden is 81 and sometimes looks frail and confused, but in this instance, why would the New York Post, owned by Fox's sister company, or anyone follow the RNC's lead when the president was actually just given the thumbs up to this parachuter?
Well, again, it's taking it out of context, the same way Trump is taking out of context so often. Here you have a video where he was talking to another parachutist. But I don't think the full video really benefits him anymore. The problem with President Biden is he looks frail when he's walking. I believe he has some spinal stenosis. I was looking at his past physician's report. But he does have difficulty walking. He does look like he's a little bit weak. There was another incident there where he leaned down and pressed his forehead against the forehead of the Pope, and that looked pretty peculiar. And then when he speaks, he sounds frail, and he sounds like his mental acuity is fading. There's a new poll out just within the past couple of days that only a third of all voters think that he is competent to become the president again for another term.
Right.
I think that's the overall problem. This just adds to the narrative, these videos. Even though that this was taken out of context, it doesn't look much better when you watch the whole thing, Howie.
Well, absolutely legitimate issue overall. But Richard, White House spokesman, we should mention, ripped certain media outlets, touting these images as desperate and lying. The New York Post yesterday, while not talking about the way the photo was cropped, said Biden wandered off, wasn't supposed to do that, went off script, and the media must face up to his cognitive decline. But is this an example of it?
Well, there's a couple things here. I think first, everybody needs to take a deep breath. We're both dealing with two nominees that are the oldest nominees in American history.
Trump just turned 78.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who celebrated his birthday this week. We must also take a deep breath and acknowledge the fact that we're dealing with one candidate in Joe Biden who is gaffe prone, and we're dealing with another candidate who lives in the world of hyperbole, right? These are the realities of this race. These are the metrics of this race. So now let's zoom in on this video that you just shown there. And what I see here is irresponsible journalism at best, right? Sloppy journalism at worst, because the media, the American people are expecting us to cover this election fairly. They're also expecting us to call this election. And when you do stories like that on your front cover without looking at the full video angle, you create more distrust against this industry and against this business at a time when the American people need to trust us more than ever.
Well, how is that any different than the Milwaukee comment? I mean, it's the same thing.
Listen, I had a problem with it. I had a problem with the Milwaukee comment when it was put in context. I had a problem with it. Here, this was taken out of context, and in context, there is no problem with it. He was clearly waving to and giving a thumbs up to folks who were to some of these parachuters here.
Well, Fox and Friends, by the way, I thought had a perfectly straightforward report about it. But the Trump campaign followed up by accusing Joe Biden of wandering around like a brain-dead zombie. Nothing like a good way to raise money to push those narratives.